let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is Monday night. It's 8 p.m, which can mean only one thing. It is the online darts live lounge with me, Phill Bars, Jack Gobby Garwood, and Lee Boyce. Gentlemen, after the last 7 days of darting drama, we have plenty to discuss this evening.
Not just the darts, Phill. It's been a great weekend for the F1.
Evening, gents.
Right, Lee.
How are we doing, boys? You all right?
Yeah. Good weekend, of course.
Darts,
darts, and more darts. That's all that happened.
Yeah, that's the trouble, isn't it? I'll give you a due. At least you stayed there and watched the lot.
The darts, I did. I watched it all. I seen you two do a sterling job on stream.
Yeah. Man, that was your chance to throw Jar under the bus, though. You just bottled it.
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that at all. It's not my style.
You're in it together. You're in it together.
With Ollie at the wheel, I'm going to throw him under the bus. For those that don't know, our former co-host, Jonathan, before he jetted off on holiday, was at Old Trafford yesterday. He walked out at half-time in disgust to Cam, another member of the team's flat, just across the way from Old Trafford, and sat there and had to wait for Lee to the end to drive him home.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not throwing him under the bus. He waited for 45 minutes for me to come out.
Yeah,
and then my company on the way back was for me to fall asleep in the car. So like, it wasn't a great afternoon for Mr. Eaton at all, as it wasn't for either of us. But
outstanding. The chat room is already rammed, everyone. Superb. All the regulars in, and after spending the last 6 days with me, Gob, and the rest of the team on the streams, to come again this evening, absolutely superb, because you guys were troopers all weekend for the ladies series and the 4 days before that. I won't tell you what Gob said when we were pre-show getting the stuff sorted. He'd forgotten there was 4 days of Super Series action, and you Gob.
Got the ladies series results up, and you're like, oh yeah, I can't find Players Championship 28. I was like, well, that doesn't exist yet. But I just had to open another 4 windows of dark connect.
It's been a long week. We're all struggling. But again, come and say hi. Make sure you give us the thumbs up as well, because it looks good for the analytics, makes us show higher. And of course, make sure you drop us a subscribe as we head towards the magical 20k mark. Hopefully, we'll be there by the World Championships. But remember, we've just shared some links on social media as well. So if you see them, share them around for us.
We passed 15,000 last week on stream. We're already talking about 20. No rest for the wicked, eh, boys?
We set the bar and then we push it higher. That's what we do.
Imagine if we get to 20.
Standing around on your laurels. We
did a big giveaway for 10k, Barzy, by the way. We might have to do an even bigger one for 20.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I don't know how we'll top it, but we'll figure something. Also,
are you going to bring that up? If we were going to tell everybody or not, because we haven't actually got anything solid for it yet. But
we haven't yet, but we were talking beforehand.
That could be the poll. That could be the poll.
This is episode number 47 of the Live Lounge. What are we going to do for the 50th episode is the question. We were talking about it before. A couple of ideas floating around. Working on it, but in the comments, let us know as well. Glob's going to start a poll up as well, but let us know what you think we should do for episode number 50 of the Live Lounge. And who'd have thought that little idea we had a little over a year ago that we'd be approaching 50 episodes? Bonkers. But this seems a long time ago. But Dimitri van den Berg won Players' Championship 24, boys. Can you remember that far back?
I can. I forgot yesterday and just stopped. My memory only goes back to Saturday and behind then. Nothing happened yesterday, so I don't remember the action, yeah. Just about.
Dimitri van den Berg beating Adrian Lewis in the final, and we'll dig into the final in a minute. But looking back through that whole event, the Tuesday, the standard was unreal. The first one back, or the first one on the block, and I can't remember if it was this one or the Wednesday, but it was like COVID's done. Obviously, it's not in terms of it's still out there, but this was the first time that the results and everything felt like pre-COVID. Boise.
Yeah, I believe it was the first day. The level of performance was just unreal throughout the averages we were seeing come through. 9 darters. It started early on in the week. Couple of real standout names for me. For the obviously Dimmy's on and running, but the ones for me and good to see them back was Adi Lewis and Kim Huybrechts. Not as much from getting to where they got to, but the games that we saw them on stream, how they performed. It was good to see a bit of them back to what we've seen before. So, but yeah, very good start to the week of darts.
Yeah, and a couple of notable runs before we talk about the actual result. Got Mickey Mansell getting to a quarter-final. Where did that come from?
You'll have to ask Mickey that. I do not know at all. Look, there was a couple of shocks throughout the week. That's what happens. The one thing I will say is the overall standard this week felt very, very good, or at least the very, very top level. We seem to see a lot more of the 103, 104 and beyond averages. And that was a bigger shock, I think, because of the long gap since the last time we played competitive darts. Like this has been quite a big gap between Pro Tour series and that sort of thing. When it's every other weekend, you can get into a bit of the rhythm, but it was a really good week in that regard. Some outsiders going deep. Martin Schindler, another one that made the top 16. Kim Huybrechts doing it an event too late after I backed him for a semi-final at the European Championships. Told you all it was coming, is all I'm going to say. There have been signs that the form is very, very good.
I think also, Phil, one thing to probably consider as well going into it was the qualifiers they had on Monday. So it was good preparation for a lot of them, then going into Tuesday and the 4 days that we've seen. But it seemed like the ground running on Tuesday, and I'm assuming the qualifiers then would certainly help. Not all of them, but the majority of them, and we've seen a very high level, potentially the highest day on Tuesday.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Adrian Lewis making a final before we talk about Dimitri is encouraging. I know we keep saying it, he's close, but that genuinely felt like a breakthrough moment. The fact that he didn't play well early on, he played well early on and failed. This time he actually got to the final, Gob.
Yeah, and if you look at his run as well, he seemed to beat a couple of his bogey players. Callum Ridge has had the better of him the last couple of times they've met. Ryan Searle the same. So to come over those players, 105 hours against Callum Ridge, to get over Ryan Searle averaging 93 is obviously a bad performance from Ryan. But for AD to just win those scrappy games against players that have had the edge over him for the last few months, really, is a very, very good sign for AD Lewis. Obviously, doesn't quite get over the line in the final. No idea where Dimmy pulled this out, by the way, because he just did not see this coming at all. He's been one of the top 16 players in the world. You're looking at going, actually, since the match play, he's carrying absolutely no form whatsoever. So to rock up and win a title on the floor, which is characteristically unlike Dimmy, is very surprising.
Yeah, 100%. But look, Dimmy's form, as we said, was patchy. But from the last 16, he averaged 105, 109, 104, 100. That's very, very good, Boise.
Yeah, it's very good, and like as Dob said, very unexpected. We would have seen this back the start of the year, probably not, but the form recently has just been very poor from Dimmy. So team push on, and that was then what I was saying. There was so much quality because of the qualifiers, having that preparation the day before. But Dimmy come into it and warmed up into the day, and then just got better and better as the day progressed. And as we got to see more and more in the latter stages on stream, it looked like he was getting back to stuff that we've seen him do before.
Absolutely. Moving on to the Wednesday. This man added a second PDC title to his resume. Callum Ridds being Gabriel Clements in the final. And again, very, very good standard. But actually, I'm going to go from the semi-final. I'm sorry, from the quarterfinals, because the quarterfinal lineup isn't necessarily what anyone would have picked. Gabriel Clements against Steve Brown, Chris Dobie against Ryan Meikle, Callum Ridds against Mervyn King, Dirk van Dijvenbode against Mike Kuyvenhoven.
Yeah, a little bit out there. Very, very good run from Steve Brown, showing that he does still have the game. He just probably doesn't produce it as often as he would like. And I think I saw something to that effect on his own social media. Tell me you back Chris Dobie each way at 100-1 without telling me you did when he loses in the last leg decider in the semi-final. Yeah, thanks for that, Chris. Not holding it against you, though, because Rossford got me a little bit out of it on the final day. 6-5 up as well. 6-5 up. Any other round and he's already there. 106 average. Look, Dobie was fantastic all week as well, by the way. He looked exceptional in qualifying on the Monday night. How on earth he didn't come through, that's beyond me. I think he was beaten with 106 average. He lost to the semi-final 106 average again on the Tuesday. On the other half of the quarterfinals, Lee, I'll leave to you.
Yes, just looking at the players who got knocked out in the last 16, I think that's why it's such a shock to see who's in the quarterfinals. To lose MVG, Jose, Cross, Chizzy, future Premier League star Ryan Searle, all those that knocked out in the last 16. And,
yeah, but he's not in the match play yet, so it don't matter, does it?
I had to let one in, Gob. I need something today to give me a little bit to cheer me up. So let me have that one, please.
Why? I've been pretty calm, I think.
But yeah, just a couple of runs there as well. Ryan Meikle, it was a big weekend for him because going into it, he was the wrong side of all the green lines in terms of the World Championships tour card. But that run has put him the right side of it with only 3 events to go. So potential huge for the Barber.
Yeah, a very good run, and he just needs to take that in, and we need to see what he can do in the final run of Pro Tour events, because there's going to be opportunities there. I'm not sure what the field will be for that one, but there's certainly opportunity if he can perform like he did on day 2.
Yeah, but big moments as well. Dirk van Dijvenbode needed to find form, and he did here. This whole block was more like the Dirk of last year than what we'd seen over recent months, Gob.
Yeah, and it's interesting that him and Dimmy have sort of found that form at the same time in the same block, because they sort of rose to the levels that they've been at and the peaks of being borderline top 16 players or top 16 in Dimmy's case. During lockdown, playing without a crowd, 2 players that actually you'd associate being better off with a crowd. It's interesting that Dimmy wins again once there is no crowd. But yeah, Dirk definitely needs to find that run again. He was just starting to slip a little bit. And as a player his career has oscillated a lot more from the highs to the lows, I think. When you consider that he has lost his tour card before, he's on the Dev Tour at the same time as Dimmy, wasn't as prolific on that as Dimmy. I remember seeing him play in Coventry a couple of times and the like. His form or his peak at the Grand Prix,
Right.
possibly he didn't quite do enough to get in the Premier League last year, but was certainly in the conversation for a while. And since then hasn't really gone deep enough, delivered enough. He's had a few wobbly ones on TV. So yeah, a really good response to get to at least the semi-final before it didn't just quite go his way.
Yeah, you say he was close to the Premier League. I think he was maybe one round away at the Worlds from properly forcing that in there. But Callum Rydz, at this point, was in possession of a space in the Grand Slam. That's a different equation, which we'll come on to later. But at this point in time, Callum was in possession. Moving on to day number 3. And like good old London buses, they come around. He's waited 2 years for a title. And in the space of 5 days, Rob Cross picks up his second one. A lot of chit-chat about Rob Cross. Was he done? We were looking at it in June thinking he could be world number, was it 34 after the Worlds? Completely turned on its head.
It hasn't. This has been... I'm not sure this is a surprise to anybody. Perhaps the fact he's gone and burst into life and won a title and backed it up, yes. But there has been a clear ascent in his form since the Premier League. And I've said it over and over again that he looked good in the Premier League without looking amazing. He was winning with consistent low 90s averages and just needed to find an extra level to that, but he wasn't as wild. He's worked on his throw. There's a lot less loose darts in the Rob Cross game anymore, and he just keeps building it up. And actually, if you look at that progression from then to now, he's still got another 2 months before the World Championships. If he can go even further and keep going in that direction, well, we could be looking at a 2-time world champion, because the rest of the field, no one really wants to seem to grasp anything at the minute and just dominate. And the more open that field stays, the more likely it is that Rob Cross could potentially be 2-time world champion. This
has got to be a first. In the chat room, Callum Rydz, brilliant. You had to bring that up with the laughing face. Callum is listening to us from Turkey whilst he's enjoying a well-earned holiday. That's got to be a first, mate. And dedication to the Live Lounge, mate. Thank you very much. Listening on your holes. But they played brilliant, buddy. But back to this one. Like we say, Rob going about his business. Tough examination in the final against Ryan Searle. Just missed a couple of loose darts and that, and Rob took full advantage of it. But like you say, God, we're looking at someone that is very accomplished and very at ease again with himself, which is great to see. But runs from Madas Razma and Nathan Aspinall to the semi-finals, Boise as well. The Asp starting to pick up form.
Yeah, and not those two, and also for me, Luke Woodhouse, it was good to see him back, having a good day, having a run to the quarterfinals. But Asp, there's been question marks there about Nathan Aspinall and Madas Razma having the run, and we'd seen then what he'd done with the nines as the week progressed, and seemed to be coming into some good form. So it's going to be interesting to see how he progresses over the next few months. But yeah, for me, the impressive on that day was Luke Woodhouse. Good to see him have a run to the quarters.
And I think, Gob, it was this day that we saw the monstrosity of a dart that Peter Wright had constructed with the stumpy barrel, slightly longer stem with the kite flight, but it didn't look like a normal kite. It looked like a moulded kite flight.
Yeah, it's a narrow one. It's not the first time we've seen that setup from him, but it just didn't work the last couple of times we've seen it, and it didn't work this time either. He's clearly searching for something. He's clearly gone off the boil with darts that he likes, and practicing and consistency has never been his thing. Hopefully he returns to one of those 2 barrels for the next couple of events, because they are really important. If he's got any aspirations of winning another world title, defending a shed load of prize money, he needs to find something and quick, because he just seems to be a little bit all over the place right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then from there, winning a title puts you in the Premier League, doesn't it, boys?
Ask John Henderson, Phil.
just winding up the chat room now. And unfortunately, this was the final that meant Callum was doomed no matter who won this final, because of the way the slam is structured, that a victory for either Michael Smith or Ross Smith would have meant they took the spot temporarily off Callum. There's still time to go, still three Pro Tours, but Michael Smith, again, signs that the Bully Boys maybe turned a corner in this block. The throw looked silk again, because when it's on, it is a fantastic action. Didn't seem to be walking as much on the last start, Gob. I know you were very critical at one point of the last start walking, but Bully Boy looked on it here.
Yeah, there's still the odd glimpse, and when you get him on TV and get him under pressure, he does start walking a little bit too much on that last start still, but he did look very good over the weekend. Just quietly went about his business for the majority of the week. Didn't go deep every day, but to get over the line in the final is solid. Beating Florian Hempel, who had a great week, and he's just got such a future. Florian Hempel, he could quite easily be German number one in about 18 months' time once the rankings play out. He's been solid. Ross Smith, a lot of time for Ross Smith. One of the first professionals that I ever worked with in exhibition. Super lad has gone away, built his game up again. He's just so solid. There's not a lot that can go wrong with his throw. And look, it takes a lot to beat Rob Cross at the minute, which he did in the semi-finals as well. The winner the day before. Cross, since the match play, has only lost to a 95-plus average. You're not beating him with anything less. And that tells you what sort of game you need to be producing to beat Rob Cross at the minute. Ross Smith produced that. At 4-0 up, I can't lie, I was sort of counting my chickens a little bit in that he was getting over the line in that final. Didn't quite come off, but it's just superb from Michael Smith.
Yeah, and massive shout out, you've mentioned him there, Florian Hempel, Boise, across. I remember looking back, when he won his tour card, he didn't come over for the first couple of blocks. So this has all happened from around June, July time, when he travelled for the first time. And since then, his career has just gone into orbit. We saw at the European Championships what he's capable of. Doesn't seem phased on a stage either. Looks a complete player.
Yeah, it was very strange. I remember talking after the European Championships that he seemed to get more praise for the game he lost than the game he won. And people are forgetting that he beat Peter Wright in the first round because of how bad Peter Wright played. And he gets the praise for taking Mensah all the way. But he was so impressive on the day. He just seemed to run out of steam when he went into Michael in the semi-finals. At the time I was on stream with you, I know I was watching the run of Ross Smith from the last 16. It was so impressive. On throw was very impressive from the last 16. The game against Damon Hatter, his 180s was just incredible. But seeing Hempel across the 4 days had some decent runs, and then he topped it off with a semi-final. And it's hard to disagree with Dobbin with odds to where we see him in the next 18 months of German's number one. Just with where we've seen the others, Clemens is probably still going to be up there. Hops dropped off. It depends what Schindler can do. Schindler had 4 good days, winning his boards, I believe, on all 4 days. So it stood for that nation that we've seen someone like Hempel, and we've seen that he can do it on the stage early on.
Yeah, definitely. Couple of bits to discuss in and around the Pro Tour before we move on. Thought Vincent van der Voort had a very consistent 4 days. The averages were steady. We had quarterfinals from him. But Vincent seems to be enjoying darts again.
Consistency is not an attribute. Is not something that you attribute to Vincent van der Voort's game very often. He's very, very good as a front runner if you let him get away from you. But he seems to be one of those players that's up or down. But yeah, like you said, a very good week for Big Vinny. Doesn't want to bulldoze anywhere just yet. It's always a good time.
No, exactly that. Shout outs to Chris Dobie, like we touched on earlier. His averages were astronomical. And if he carries on in that vein, he is going to pick up a title or maybe even a TV title. The form was that good. Yes, he didn't win all the games, but the action looks back to normal and the averages were just unbelievable, Boise.
Yeah, there's a few players across the 4 days who certainly hit those numbers and seem to just run into one. Derby was one who seemed to run into one most of those days. Obviously, same sort of thing happened with Michael. There's a few in there who played well and just seemed to then run into that sort of game or run out of steam, as we've seen with Hempel. But you credit to Dolby because it looks like his name's there. The interesting one for me with Chris Dolby is the levels he then can push on stage, because we haven't seen him hit the numbers consistently is what we've seen this week. So for me, it's what he can do now on stage, and if he can push on, for me, there's no doubt that he can go on and lift titles.
Yeah. Also, Michael must have been. I'd love to have been inside Michael's head on that flight back to Amsterdam after this block of Super Series. Didn't pick up a title, didn't go past the last 16, but arguably played the best darts we've seen from him all year.
Yeah, and look, it will be a little bit confusing because 2-3 years ago for Michael, if he turns up and plays for that like that for 4 days, he probably picks up 4 titles. That's how the game's changed in the last 2 years. Perhaps comments that he made the other week about players still being scared of him backfired a little bit because players just seem to raise their game against him, which never used to happen. It used to have the opposite effect, and now they are raising it to step up to knock Michael down. The game is there. In the start of the year, early parts of the year, we were worried about the fact that it was 106 1 minute and it was an 85 the next minute. The Premier League, he's like 15 points between the averages every night, up and down, up and down. So the fact that consistency's back, the game's back, and he's won the World Series event already. It's the big part of the year now. You wouldn't back against, well, you might back against him, but there's still a lot of talk about whether or not he'll pick up a title this year. But he's in a better position to do so now than he was in March and April.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
On that PB, I was just going to say that the only part of the game where I see a few worries is just the finishing, a part we've seen across the Pro Tour that just wasn't there. Other than that, it seems like the rest of his game is himself. And when I mean finishing, obviously throughout the week, it was very good because you don't get the numbers that he was hitting. But just the pressure darts, they're the ones for me that we're going to be looking at. As I touched upon on Friday, is that we've seen it in the Price game a couple of weeks back. It's just those moments. I think once he finds them, he's certainly going to be someone to look out for. And for me, I see him winning more titles before this year's out, without doubt.
Yeah, also, we spoke about it earlier, swings in the race for the World Championship after this block of Pro Tours. Ryan Mikuru, as we said, right side of the line. Florian Hempel, at the start of this block, was not going to the World Championship. Now he is 29th. He is in a green spot on darts rankings, which is always good. There's only £1,000 between 32, which is Jason Heaver on 12, Christoph Kachuk 33, Adam Hunt, Andy Bolton, Jason Lowe all on 11, 10.5 under that. Then Gert de Vos at 40 on 10. This is going to be big, these last blocks of Pro Tours, Gob.
Yeah, definitely. Three events left, 28, 29 and 30. Still plenty of players in that hunt as well. And actually, Darius Labanauskas and Adrian Lewis are in 33rd and 34th in the overall order of merit as well. There's still chances for them to sneak up with good runs at the paid TV majors sort of thing. So, yeah, look, there's still a lot of movement yet to come before the World Championships, I think, and I don't see it sticking with how it is at the minute.
No, exactly. It's going to be interesting. And the last one off of the back of that is, of course, the tour card race, because this is the one that the lower ranked players always keep an eye on. So Ryan Murray is holds on to 64th spot at the moment, but he will need to get to the Worlds. I think Lisa Ashton has work to do, Ted Everts work to do, Wayne Jones, Matthew Edgar, Andy Hamilton, all huge work to do, including Nick Kenny and Jelle Klassen as well. It's going to be interesting, boys, this race, because there's so many of them that are outside the 64 at the moment that we know are going to the Worlds, like Schindler, Suter, Mitchell, Edhouse, Barneveld, Hempel.
Yeah, it's going to be a key one. It's these 3 days that, for me, are going to be so key at the next Pro Tour event, because you've seen like Steve Brown having the run to the quarterfinals, anything like that, and just spark this bit of form sort of out of nowhere. And some of these we haven't seen anything that we sort of expect or seen from some of them previously. So it is those days, and it might just be, like I says, one of those that spark a bit of life into them, and we can see them get into the Players' Champs or have a run at one of those. And it is going to be very interesting because of how close. There's hardly anything in it for the race, but qualifying for either the Slam, the Players, or the World is just going to be key to be the difference for any of those.
Yeah. Been asked as well in the chat room, when will the World Championship draw be? I think it will either be Tuesday the 30th or Wednesday the 1st of December, live on Sky Sports. Because the World Championship qualifier is the 29th, correct? The Monday after Minehead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, I always find strange that.
I agree. It's bonkers that you might have to get from Minehead to, is it Wigan or Barnsley this year?
Yeah. Especially when you have upstairs where they could just leave the 8 boards up or the 6 boards up and put a couple more up.
Yeah. I think it'll either be the Tuesday or the Wednesday after Minehead will be the draw for the World Championships, and it will probably be Wayne, Emma, and maybe Rod.
I know it's definitely Wayne doing the draw because he put it on Twitter.
Yeah. That's when the World Championship draw will roughly be on. Now, boys, from the chaos of the Pro Tour, we went to the Women's Series, still in Barnsley, and it was dominated by 2 people. First of all, it was Fallon Sherrock who booked her return back to the scene of the crime. The Queen returned to Alexandra Palace, and at this point, Twitter went into meltdown, but for a change, in a good way. I didn't see too much negativity this time around. We know Fallon splits opinion, but this weekend there was a lot of good stuff in and around it, Gob.
Yeah, look, I think this is the results that we expected from Fallon. She didn't quite manage it last time at the Ladies Series out. And since then, people have been a little bit frustrated with the fact that she hasn't earned it through the channels, perhaps, that it's been off previous achievements, and Lisa is still achieving on the Pro Tour. Lisa won the Women's Series overall last time, as did Dieter, etc. This time, Fallon's rocked up to a floor event and delivered her top-level game that everybody knows she's got. She just hasn't delivered yet at Q School or in previous iterations of the Women's Series. And at that point, she's earned a spot fair and square. She's going back, and she looked very, very dangerous. Some of the performances, some of the averages were superb. And I thought it was really interesting, actually, that it was Fallon's victory in, I can't remember which game it was right now when we were working numbers out, but it secured her and Lisa at exactly the same time by knocking out their next rival. I think it was beating Mikuru, actually, that got them all in. So she dragged her rival. Not that the 2 players will admit to it being a rivalry, but everyone else sees it as that little bit of friendly. They're there to push each other on. That conversation and debate is going to keep rolling on to both qualify for the World Championships, and it didn't leave a lot out. Well, it left quite a bit for us to discuss the rest of the weekend, to be fair.
Yeah, no, absolutely, it did, and it was great to see. And yeah, I can't remember which we'll go through. I think she beat Dieter in one of the semi-finals, perhaps, but we'll come on to that in a minute. But in the first event number 7, boys, Fallon Sherrock beats Mikuru Suzuki 5-0 in the final, averaging 102.95. Regardless of whether you're male or female, that is world-class arrow slinging. Yeah,
it's not bad, is it? It's not bad at all. You're right, and compare it to some of what we saw on the Pro Tour, and from a final-wise, that would have certainly been up there, if not beat some of those. So it just shows what she can do. And just to touch on more onto Dobbs' point about proving a worth, with a lot of the questions being asked about her not being able to do it in this last year and those sort of things, to not only win so many over the 2 weekends, but to win it with the quality she did. One of the people we was looking at to push on for the Grand Slam was Mikuru. So for Fallon to dismantle her in that first final was so impressive. And like I said, she was just so good across the weekend. Done enough early on, but still, then performances didn't drop down. And we've seen her on the live lead. We've seen her obviously in the World Series. We're going to see her then this weekend, and has done some damage across these tournaments now that is going to be in, and rightfully so. She deserves to be in them, and like I says, the level of performance has shown that.
Just scrolling through the results, Gob, when I found it, it was this one that we saw Fallon Sherrick on the stream for the first time when she beat Lorraine Hyde 4-1 with a 103.90 average, and we commented straight away that she meant business. The hair was up, the glasses were on, and she hit a 180, and it's the first time that she doesn't give much away, but that snarl that we both noticed straight away, it was like, oh, hello.
Yeah, she was there to get the job done early as soon as she could. Look, she didn't play, spoiler alert, she didn't play event number 12, so she won 6 out of 11 events over the weekend, 61 matches, I think it was. The tournament average, by the way. I'm just reading this on Twitter as well, so while we're discussing the ladies, probably do this at the end, but 61 matches in total. She won 6 of the 12 events. She pulled out the last one, so it's 6 out of 11. She lost 5 times over the entire women's series, all of which were to Lisa Ashton. 3 of those were in final. She had a tournament average of 85.54 across 12 events.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what one I saw on top of that was she'd won 71 out of 78 leads on throw. That's some doing. That is 20 drop 7 on throw. Is very, very impressive. And you can see why, like you said, sometimes the numbers can be a bit deceiving when it comes to the averages, and you can have someone play really well but miss loads of doubles and it drops drastically, and sort of vice versa when they bid check outs. But she was so good throughout, not just this weekend but previously.
Moving on to event number 7. Oh, before we cover this, there was breaking news in the first event that Fallon Sherrick and Lisa Ashton, someone had pressed the wrong button, Gob, because they were in the same half.
Doesn't happen very often. It doesn't very often at all.
But in event number 2 on the Saturday, normal service was resumed, and it was the final we all expected. But this time, Boise, Lisa got a revenge over Fallon. Fallon missed, I think, 7 match darts, if I remember rightly, across 2 legs. Or missed, I can't remember what it was, but she missed big darts. It wasn't match darts, but big darts in key areas. But Lisa got the job done 5-3, and they were 1-1 for the day in titles.
Yeah, but we've sung the praise of Fallon, but also should be doing the same to Lisa Ashton. There was a lot of talk from ourselves last Monday around the Pro Tours, and should she be playing them all? What sort of preparation does that give her leading into this? Should she miss a day or 2? But she's coming to this event. There was question marks around who can push her for that Grand Slam spot. And after the first event, obviously, with Suzuki then to the final, there was certainly question marks there. I'd see if Lisa can push on, and she put in such a good performance to beat Fallon. Fallon missed opportunities, but like I say, I don't want to be too critical as of how good she was across the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, and event number 3 on the Saturday, Gob. Guess who was in the final again? They met again, and it was this result in the semi-final. I remember Lisa had already beaten Katie Sheldon.
Yeah.
Fallon and Dieter. With Fallon beating Dieter, guaranteed them both a world championship spot. And the final, Fallon, she got a revenge, and this was a very complete performance. 5-2, 98.33 average.
Yeah, look, these two just kept pushing each other along all weekend, didn't they? Like I said, it was fitting that one result carried both of them through, which actually at this point, I'm probably going to say I was a little bit disappointed in Dieter Hedman. She was one of the top 2 the last time we had the women's series. Didn't quite deliver the top level that perhaps we expect from her. She picked up a couple of events last time out. Didn't see that this time. But yeah, fitting final, good way to get over the line for both of them. Both went there, got the big one out of the way. Fallon had already got the slam out of the way as well. And obviously Lisa went in the hunt for that on the Sunday. But yeah, it was just a bloody good event all around, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely loved it. Before we come on to the Sunday, a few regulars in the chat room. Dynamite is back in. Craig is back in as well. Charlie, of course, is in. Hope you are well, my friend. Excuse me.
Also, because Lisa had already beaten her, I think now's a good time to talk about Katie Sheldon as well, because I was really impressed with Katie Sheldon. We said this a couple of times on the stream.
At the end, I was going to do the ones that caught her eye got.
Go on,
then. There's a list, to be fair, of ones that caught her eye away from the usual suspects.
Yeah.
Jump in the dun, Dob. Jump in the dun.
Well, you know.
And then moving on to Sunday, again, someone pressed the wrong button and the bat phone would have been going off at the Metrodome because Fallon and Lisa met in the quarterfinals. Lisa got the better of a 4-3 in that one. And from there, Lisa would go on and win. However, there was one game in the semi-final, Gob, which for pure nostalgia reasons was sensational. It was Anastasia Dobronislova against the Golden Girl, Trina Gulliver. Brought back memories of Lakeside finals.
Yeah, class to see those two going back at it. Trina's another one we'll talk about in a minute, about players that caught the eye. But yeah, like I said, 5-4, went all the way, nip and tuck. Wasn't to be for Anna in the final. She missed key darts in the first leg, and it sort of broke her because she went out the blocks like a house on fire. She was rapid out the blocks, scoring was unbelievable. I think she missed 6 or 7 darts at double to win the leg against Lisa. And Lisa just punished her, and she just never looked like she recovered. She looked like a broken woman at that point. So, yeah, look, another title for Lisa. Just continued to do what she does. Yeah, interesting that Fallon and Lisa were on the same side of the draw. I think it was 3 times out of the 11 events that they both actually competed in. But it was job done at this point, so it's probably a little bit okay for that. Right, is a spice of life, you know. So we'll mix it up a bit.
And then from there, moving on to the second event on the Sunday. For once, it wasn't a Fallon Lisa final when they were in other halves of the draw. Dita Hedman beat Lisa Ashton in the quarterfinals, and arguably, Gob, this was her best performance across the whole weekend. Like you say, we're a little disappointed with Dita because we know she's a much better player than what she shown across that thing. But this was the one result that caught her eye.
Yeah, it was, and she did it in really impressive fashion as well. She was 3-1 up as well, I think, and allowed Lisa to break her back or take the next leg. It's been that long and we watched that many legs. I can't remember the exact breakdown of the match. But it felt like Dita had to get the job done earlier in the match because the longer she allowed Lisa back into it, the harder it then became to get over the line, given that she had relatively less success over the weekend. Showed that she's still got a very, very good game. Needs an extra gear, I think, to be able to compete with these top 2. And that probably explains why she doesn't have that coveted world championship from the Lakeside of years gone by, that perhaps in those top moments when the top players deliver their top game, Dita hasn't been able to respond under pressure. And we saw that perhaps a little bit this weekend.
Yeah, and in the final, boys, see, Fallon Sherrick took Dita to the cleaners. It was 5-1 as Fallon Sherrick added her 6th title of the Ladies Series. And at the end of the stream, Gob and I commented that she looked absolutely shattered at the end of it. And we weren't surprised when very quickly she pulled out of the last event.
Yeah, very, very dominant performance in the final, but no real surprise. Job done. And deserved the right to have that toll to drop out. I know she should have probably done it a little earlier, but still put that level of performance in. Still, you know, what I'm assuming she wanted to make sure that across the whole events that she won more titles than Lisa. As we've said, that the two of them don't say there's that rivalry there, but there certainly is, because we've the amount of times they've competed in the final, and I'm sure we'll see them compete an awful lot more. But great credit to Fallon and also to Dita. You talked about the semi-final in the previous one, but seeing Dita and Trina go head-to-head as well in the semi-final was good to see.
And then, boys, the last one, the back-to-back Ladies World Champion, Mikuru Suzuki, joined the party. And we said it, would she get her preparation right? She flew in earlier and looked so much better for it. And you could see the rust was gone. The more she was playing, the better the darts were going. And in the end, beating Lisa Ashton 5-3 in that last final was good to see, because Mikuru is a fantastic player, Gob. And at the end, you could see them both running so they didn't get caught by Dan Dawson.
Yeah, no interview today after Lisa and Fallon got collared on the Saturday. Look, Mikuru probably didn't want the women's series to end at this point. She started really brightly, then dipped a bit, but seemed to get better again, as she had lulls in the middle of each event, I think. But she started each event brightly, dipped, and then went back up again. And she looked very, very good to round this off. She won 21 straight legs to get to this. She lost the first leg, I think, in the first match, and then lost the second leg in the final. Other than that, she did not drop a leg in event number 12. She was absolutely superb, beating Lisa Ashton in the final. The women's series needed this result. It's brilliant that Lisa and Fallon are doing what they're doing, and those who can go and compete in the men's game in the PDC, etc. But it needed somebody to just pinch one of them to show that it's not quite the all-dominating top two as it might seem, and that the fact that Lisa had dropped losses to Lorraine Winstanley, Jo Locke and Dieter Hedman over the rest of the series as well was really important. All right, Fallon only did lose to Lisa in 11 events, which is ridiculous too. There's so many niche little stats to come out of the women's series. But a different victor at the end, albeit when everything to play for is pretty much sewn up, was really important for the women's series, because now others can look at that and go, actually, well, she managed to do that in the last event, so I can do that next time out with another 12 months to prepare for this, go away and actually play some darts, because a lot of the ladies hadn't really played competitive darts before the first block of women's series, and that left them an awful lot of work to do. They'd had one county weekend, maybe perhaps a couple of local leagues if they were back to playing it. But yeah, Suzuki winning that was just as important as the other two doing what they did over the 12 events.
Yeah, and from there, this gave us the order of merit as it is on screen. After 12 events, Fallon Sherrock topped the order of merit from Lisa Ashton, Dieter Hedman, and Mikuru Suzuki, making up the top four. Then Anastasia Dobromoslova, Corinne Hammond, Rhiannon O'Sullivan, and Trina Gulliver making the top 8 and getting free entry into Q School. And Boise, how good was it to see the Golden Girl, 1, playing again, 2, getting results, and 3, putting in a run to finish 8th?
Yeah, and what a run she had on the final day, a couple of semi-finals we saw from her. It's so good to see that. And to add to that point on Dobbs is around that, as much as Fallon and Lisa have dominated across the event, and you can see the gap between second and third, it was important to see these names push on. And even if we didn't see Mikuru win the last one, it was good to see them pushed and defeating Lisa. Obviously not Fallon. But the Trina, it's so happy to see her back playing at that level. And with more games, I think these are only going to get better and push her. We've seen that Fallon's played a lot more, Lisa's played a lot more than some of these. So I think they can be pushed, and it'll be interesting to see, once the calendar's revealed for next year, how these events are set up for the ladies series and how it's going to run, because it'll be key, and I think Mikuru will learn a lot from this one. She'll be disappointed not to be close to the top 2, but the realisation that the preparation wasn't right in that first event, that had a knock-on effect, and it was too much to do this time around. But it's learning curve. It's only the second time we've had this event for them, and I think next year we'll see a more familiar feel to how this event will run, instead of them all being sort of crammed into the weekend.
Yeah. I'm going to give you boys a couple of minutes, because we are going to play a clip from Matt Porter talking about the ladies' game. Whilst Matt talks about this, who caught your eye outside the usual names? I've got a few as well, so you boys have got about 2 minutes. Well, this is the clip from the interview with Matt.
She did, and obviously, it's always controversial with Fallon because she's from a different dimension to the players from the top of the rankings, isn't she? And it was great to see her there, and she performed to a fantastic standard. And nobody can tell me Michael wasn't worried in that final. He was worried. He was properly worried. But fair play to him, he showed what a champion he is. But Fallon as well was brilliant. And to be fair, Phil, what was more important to me was not Fallon just doing that. It was what she followed up at the women's series, where she's in a bit of a no-win situation because people expect her to do well, and if she does well, people just shrug their shoulders and go, well, she's supposed to do well, she's this, that and the other, but a couple of times she's maybe not done what she would have wanted to do in those more tour-like environments, Q School and whatever, but she's gone to the women's series. Her and Lisa, I looked at it, it's almost like a bit like two boxers going head to head. Massively, the pair of them are like, four of the 6 finals was the pair of them, and they are like the women's darts, the characters for the aspirational figures for other women dart players to follow. And those two going head to head was tremendous. And, it's very likely, I would imagine, maybe someone will prove me wrong, but it's very likely Lisa will get the second spot, if she does well at the upcoming women's series. And then the pair of them would be at Alexandra Palace, and they're fantastic ambassadors for the women's game. But, it was really good for Fallon to deliver on that stage, as well as delivering on the big stage where, she's done it before, but for her to do that, as I say, at the women's series was fantastic.
Are we going to see the continuation of the ladies series and the development of their game in 2022?
Yeah. I mean, look, it's important for us. I think our philosophy on it is that it's easy to say. People say put more women in the World Championship. Well, that's fine, but that benefits one woman. Having more activity benefits lots and lots of women players, and we want to have more activity, more regularly, more competitive tournaments. Getting people more used to our environment. I mean, we get so much positive feedback from the players about the environment that we create and the way that the events are staged for the women's series, and that's what we want to get that mentality to become more of a normal thing for them. Normal environment for them to play in. So, yeah, we're fully committed to the women's series, and that will form a part of this calendar that will be coming out very shortly.
Good news for the ladies, boys, that it looks as if we are going to see more in 2022.
Yeah, I think so. Look, commercially, it makes sense for the PDC, but at the same time, there is a market for it. There's a product there, and actually, as long as they keep backing it and they keep delivering, they're going to keep getting the opportunities. And the PDC are prepared to leap on that.
Yeah, no, definitely. A couple in the chat room, Raven said, Matt Porter has become your best friend, Phil. We have kind of a love-hate relationship. He loves me 1 minute, hates me the next. Respects the hustle, but some of the quote lines we get and some of the things that we get that perhaps they don't want to come out yet, he doesn't like so much. I think that would be a fair assumption, boys, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but look, he's seeing it from his point of view, we're seeing it from our point of view. We're not going to... If we're constantly behind the PDC and everything that they produce, there's absolutely no need for us. So we've got to go and get what we can when we can and get it out to you guys.
So now that he's done that, names that caught your eye outside the usual suspects. Obviously, Gob, you can go first because you watched it with me.
I think Lee should go first because I'm about to list about 40. Look, everybody I thought was superb. There were some really, really good talents on show. The return of Ros Bulmer to darts after overcoming cancer a couple of years back. Denise Cassidy looked really, really good. Joanne Locke, much talked about on social media. Look, she was brilliant. Some of the younger girls, the Irish girls, Robin Byrne and Katie Sheldon, I thought they were superb. Vicky Pruitt in the first weekend, she wasn't there this weekend. Same with Kirsty Hutchinson, actually. Her gamble did pay off, but I think we'll talk about that in a little while. Just solid all around, Lee.
Have you left me anyone, Dob?
There's a few.
I've got a list down of a few names, and all 3 of those that you mentioned, which was Locke, Sheldon, and Patterson, were the 3. And it was for me.
I didn't mention Patterson. I left Patterson for you.
Oh, sorry. I do apologise. That was the one that you didn't say. Yeah, there was a few that did, and for me, it was good to see on stream, seen some of them that I hadn't seen before, not seen for a long time. You looked in a few years back since we've actually seen them. Obviously, we've seen what they've been doing in the WDF events. But yeah, it was overall a good weekend. And for me, I'm very interested to see what the plan is. So obviously, listening to Matt there is a plan in place. But how it's going to be set out across the year, how the events are going to run, how separated they're going to be across each weekend. To see them playing regular, because we want to see Lisa and Fallon pushed. And I guess one other thing, these around will there be any clashes if either of those or any of the 8 have got an opportunity to win a tour card or any more that go for it? If any of those clash, that we see any of these events where some of these ladies can't play. So it's going to be interesting when that calendar drops.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. There was one again that caught my eye massively. Didn't play in the first one. Travelled over with Mikuru was Yuki Sakaguchi. What an unbelievable potential there is there. The throw looked very, very good. All the fundamentals looked good. And there was spells, Gob, where we watched her. She popped in a couple of 15 dart legs, a couple of 16 dart legs. More than capable.
Yeah, the consistency wasn't quite there yet, but she looked very, very solid. Good stance, good action, good base for the game. I was just looking at her stats now. She played in 6 events. She failed to cash in 2 of them, so that's an early exit. But actually, when you consider that, so did Anastasia and Trina fail to cash in 2 of the 6 events in the final 4. Admittedly, when they did cash, they went further. But that's still a solid level of consistency. She rocked up, won 250 quid and found herself 39th on the order merit overall without playing half the events that the others above her did. So, yeah, she was brilliant to watch. The more international players we see, the quicker the ladies' game continues to grow. We didn't see any Aileen de Graaf. There wasn't many that travelled over from Europe. Julia Hymanson and Sarah Milkowski were the only 2, really, when you consider the other players that are out there that have been to Q School before, etc., or been to Ladies Series before. There was no Dana Verhagen. Is it Verhagen? I always butcher her surname.
Yeah.
Mrs. Hydrex. She was affectionately known the first time round. Look, there wasn't a lot of participation from Europe this time around, and I don't think COVID has helped with that. If that continues to grow as well, they're onto something good here.
Yeah, so in the chat room about Bo Greaves. We'll talk about her shortly in a different capacity, but yeah, she's certainly one that we'll be keeping an eye on, which we'll come on to that shortly. But before we get there, at the same time at the weekend, there was some World Championship qualifiers. First of all, Gob, I know you're excited about this one as well.
I wanted it to be Philby. No, take that away from Charles.
Yeah, so
54 years old, hasn't been to the Palace in over 10 years, but he's back. Solid performance, that is. Joins the crew. Look, it was a really well-attended qualifier as well, actually. Give them their due. The last couple of years, I've mocked him a little bit because it's basically been send Devon Peterson down. But the fact that he wasn't playing and actually it stood on its own was really good.
Yeah, but there was one man on everyone's lips yesterday that is coming back. The madman himself. Who wants to draw Gerwyn Price? Could you imagine?
Gary Anderson is shaking his head. What on earth are you doing, man?
Yeah, we might be here for a while if that's to happen, especially if it does, depending on how far it goes. We'd see him playing the first to 4 or first to 5 set. We could certainly be here a while if he's celebrating that 60.
But he's a character, is John Norman, that is for sure.
Yeah, and that sort of aside.
Celebrate a single night.
Yeah, that aside, The field he's come through as a qualifier deserves a lot of credit. I know a lot of the talk was around what we're going to see antics-wise, but he's to qualify is a huge achievement coming to that tour's now progressing. It's a very difficult field to come through. But yeah, it's hard not to smile when you see that he's qualifying because you know what you're going to get. And it's certainly going to be to my liking. I'm assuming it's going to be to yours, PB, but I'm not too sure it's going to be to Dobbs.
I love him. Bring him on.
Gary Anderson, mate.
Absolute lunatic.
So that's that. Also, looking forward, we have some darts this weekend, gentlemen, to run and cast our eye over. The World Series of Darts Finals lands at the AFAS Arena in Amsterdam. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, it's going to be
I
good.
almost forgot this was on. We've just been that engrossed. Looking at that draw, there's a couple of the seeds that might be in trouble.
Yeah, we'll come on to where the seeds are in round 2. First of all, we'll run our eye over the first round games. So Mike Kyvenhoven plays John Henderson, James Wade, Mervyn King, Nathan Aspinall, Vincent van der Voort, Jeffrey Dejuan plays Dirk van Dijvenbode, Gabriel Clements plays Christoph Ratajski, Neil Zonneval, Dave Chisnell, Jose de Souza, Danny Noppert, and Kim Hybrex against Michael Smith. So we'll start at the top. Big John, off the back of the World Cup, gets a shot at the World Series. He plays Mike Kyvenhoven, and again, this is a real coin toss game for me.
It is for you. I think Kyvenhoven will come through quite comfortably. Look, we saw John Henderson win the World Cup with Peter Wright. Granted, he put in a couple of very good performances over a short format, but I still feel like he doesn't have the 95 plus game consistently enough to compete that you're going to need to. He's going to be up against a home crowd. I just backed Mike Kyvenhoven. He had a better Super Series in the week gone by as well. Potentially setting up that all Dutch clash in round 2.
I'm going to come to you for this one, Boise, because I can't put Gob through it. James Wade takes on Merv King on a TV stage. And I think Wade is in a bit of trouble here. Not in the best of form, and it's only best of 11.
Yeah, I'm edging more towards Merv. I'm glad you've come to me, so I think Dob would have said that James Wade and Mervyn King would play Rasmus in round 2, and he wouldn't have been able to pick one. But yeah, there's a bit of concerns around Wade, especially against teams in this short format. And I think that whoever comes through will fancy that. Obviously, looking at the seeds, that's the one that you would have wanted to be drawn against, and nothing against Rasmus, but it's probably the one you would have wanted to come up against. And I'm edging towards Merv. It's going to be, I don't expect either of those to run away with it. I'd expect it to be probably 9-10 lads. We played potentially all the way, but Merv to edge through on that one.
And then this is an absolute belter. The form they're both in right now over this format. Gob, Nathan Aspinall takes on Vincent van der Voort. That is an absolute belter.
It is look, 6 months ago it's not. It's Nathan Aspinall all the way, but like I said, van der Voort was incredibly consistent over the Super Series just gone. He seems to be adding that extra level to his game, and again, the home crowd can and may play a big part in this.
Oh, completely. It will be very hostile for Aspinall.
Look, traditionally, we give European crowds a lot more jip than we do UK ones. Ours have got just as bad recently, but it started on the continent, in my opinion, and it's going to continue there.
Then we have an all-Dutch affair. Jeffrey Dejuan takes on Dirk van Dijvenbode, and Boise, I don't see this one being close.
I don't expect it being close now after the week we've just had from Dirk. If this was played last weekend before the Pro Tour we've just had. Not that Jeffrey Dejuan has done much recently, but Dirt hasn't been in any type of form himself. But coming off the back the week he's just had, I expect it to be one-sided. And I'd love to see Dirt come through that because the tie it sets up. If Dirt can find the form we've seen of the week, that tie that it sets up is a very, very interesting tie, especially as Dob alluded to in the last game, that the home crowd would get behind one player. They certainly will get behind Dirt or Jeffrey is one, but obviously we know Dirt performing. Get behind Dirt up against Derwin Price.
Then Polish Eagle Krzysztof Ratajski taking on Gabriel Clements. And again, this is a real 50-50 pick'em game, Gob.
It is indeed. Well, it isn't. It isn't. Look, the sheer consistency on TV recently, Krzysztof Ratajski's the more solid of the two. I just think Clemens gets a little bit more edgy. But Clemens did win a Pro Tour earlier in the week, and that might be the boost that he needs. Very enticing possibility to get through as well.
Then Neil Zonoval, Dave Chisnell. This should be straightforward, unless Chizzy has a wobble, Boise. But on paper, fairly comfortable.
Yeah, it should be fairly comfortable. And in looking at this section of the draw, I think Chizzy will fancy his chances to have a run. Obviously, talking about the seeds and who may be in danger, Anderson hasn't been in great form, so he'll certainly see that as an opportunity. And then whoever comes through the tie with Fallon, I think Chizzy's going to fancy his chances this weekend, but he has to start well. We've seen him, if he can come flying out the block tournaments and certainly push on. I expect him to win this one quite comfortably, even if he's not found his A game. But I expect him to come through to about 2 or 3.
Then we have a real intriguing one. Jose de Souza against Danny Noppert. And on current form, I think Noppy's favourite.
Can't disagree with that at all, mate. Danny Noppert has been solid. He's added that steeliness to his game. He's added that extra, just that little bit more difficult to beat. Now that victory over Marco Van Gogh the other week was massive in that as well. Jose has not really delivered, but at the same time, he's said that since having his second COVID jab, he feels like it's affected his muscles a little bit. It's not been the kick on and dominance that we expected from Jose de Souza 9 months ago.
Yeah, no, I agree. It doesn't look right. And we didn't see consistently at the Pro Tour those big blistering averages. We saw a lot of sub 95 and between 92 and 88 un-Jose like. So I think the freeze could do a number on him. And then over a best of 6, this again could be anything. Kim Hybrex against Bully Boy Michael Smith, Boise.
Yeah, and it goes back to last week. We're looking at players who are in form or were showing glimpses of the form they've previously had. And there was signs certainly of Tim Hybrex back to what Tim Hybrex can do. So, and Michael Smith winning the last event, winning his board every day throughout the week. So there was signs of Michael Smith's down there. Over this short format, they will not only fancy coming through that Dane both in this form, but will fancy coming up against an out of sorts Peter Wright. With a Dane already on the stage, I think it will play into the favour, but it should be a great Dane. I would be siding towards Michael Smith, just because we haven't seen enough of Tim. We've seen him getting back there throughout the week. I'd just be siding towards Michael Smith. But Keith, both have done a story, just out of them finish.
Seeds enter in round 2, which will be Saturday night. Michael Van Gogh is seeded 1, Madaz Razma 8, Johnny Clayton 4, Gerwin Price 5, Fallon Sherrick 2, Gary Anderson 7, Dimitri Vandenberg 3, and Peter Wright seeded 6. Boys, some interesting matchups because of the seedings.
Yeah, there is, and there's the top draw has the top quarter has a very strong favourite in it. The bottom quarter is an absolute coin toss for all 6 players, in my opinion. That's how the contrast is. It doesn't get much more open than the bottom 6 right now, and that's because of the seedings, like you said, and the way that the draw's slotted in next to it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Look, I know darts isn't played on paper, but I can't see anything other than Michael Van Gogh getting to the semi-final as a minimum with that route.
Yeah. the way he's playing at the minute as well. I expect him to come through Kyvenhoven or Henderson. Can't lie, I'm probably expecting that second tie to be Mervyn King, and his head-to-head record is actually pretty good against MVG, but he still seems to switch off just a little bit towards the back end of games. Does the format go up by the time they meet as well in the last?
Yeah. So round 1 and round 2, best of 11. Quarterfinals, best of 19. Semi-final and final, best of 21.
Yeah, see, I don't see... If it was still a race, best of 11, I'd fancy King to give him a crack. But in a race to 10, I'm just not sure that he has... Look, Mervyn King's fantastic. I love Mervyn King, quite obviously. The man's on my wall, for Christ's sake. But I just don't see him having the game the way that Michael's playing right now to beat him over 19 lengths.
The quarter under Michael, good luck. That's all I'm saying in this, because we could have an all-Welsh quarter-final, or we could have an all-Dutch quarter-final, we could have an England-Wales, we could have England-Holland. It's an absolute nightmare trying that. Mini quarter of the top half is the quarter of death.
Yeah, it's a quarter
of
death.
Your turn, Lee. I did the top one.
I thought so, mate. Yeah, with this one as well, I always think, especially with these weekends, the people who've had a dame on the stage and come through are in a lot better place than the seeds who have not had that dame. So to see and potentially see 2 Dutch players come through there with the home crowd on their side on a Saturday, Friday or Saturday, it's going to be very busy. I'm not convinced it's Johnny and Price that both come through their dames. I would expect Price, but not Johnny.
Interesting.
Johnny, the 3 TV title winner this year, and Price, the world champion, but hasn't won anything since. How do you think goes the other way? But neither at the Pro Tour just gone.
Yeah, but my only concern is why didn't Johnny play? Nothing.
Johnny didn't play because he feel very well. Yes, he didn't play because he fancied sunning it up in Marbella or something. No, I don't know. I don't actually know where it was.
Dog, my thinking is more of the opponents that they're coming up against than Jeffrey's one. If he gets through, we haven't seen any kind of real form from him. There was glimpses last week, but not really much. Dirt, there was glimpses, but there wasn't to the same level we saw before, where with Vincent van der Voort seems to be in better form, and if he comes through on that night, would be playing up against Johnny Clayton with the crowd fully behind him. And Nathan Aspinall, we all know what the Aspinall doing, he's getting better. That's probably the thinking more behind it than the opponent. But I think Derwin Price is going to be pumped up for it because of the potential semi-final that we'd see and wanting to get some revenge on Michael from a couple of weeks back.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Bottom half, top quarter. Where are we going with this one? Go.
Depends how the crowd take to Fallon, doesn't it? I think Ratajski beats Clemens. I'm going to stick my neck out for that one. Don't worry about that. It's just what happens after that. I think he's so solid, so robust, and actually he's one of the players that tends to not react to a lot as well. He's just got that intrinsic nature about him where he just doesn't get drawn into it. So even if the crowd are against him, the only worry is it just switches off with his outer ring, as can sometimes happen for Ratajski. Don't Fallon look fantastic, and we all know what she's capable of doing, and just seems to keep getting results at this level. She absolutely loves being up on stage as well. The fact she's just played so well on the floor is another thing for Fallon, because she's 100% a big stage player. She's the female Dimitri, if you like. Chisnell beats Sonneveld, and then it's an absolute coin toss as to which Gary Anderson we're going to get. Crowds tend to back Gary, though, as well, so we might see a little bit of booing for Chisnell. I hope they just let these two play. But at that point, probably Chisnell. If Fallon wins the round before, Fallon comes through this and is in the semi-final, I don't see the winner of this tie, or this line that the Chisnell, Zonneveld or Anderson beating Fallon?
I think Chisnell may do a number on her.
Potentially. Look, he's looking okay, but I just think the crowd will be massively Fallon at that point.
Yeah, look, I've got concerns about Gary at the moment because the results weren't great. I know it's only Pro Tours, but the results weren't great.
Yeah. Not good at all.
And then the bottom half. Don't worry, chat room. Seen some great questions there. We'll come to them in a second. Who are you going from the bottom half then, Boise? The bottom quarter?
I'll let you go again, Lee. You get the nice easy ones tonight.
Yeah. Cheers, PB. I appreciate this. You know I've had a bad weekend, and then you throw me under the bus here with these quarters.
Have you had a bad weekend, mate? What's
for
up?
Me,
you should have mentioned it.
Because I really, really, really wanted Mikuru to qualify, and she didn't. That's why I had to think of something very good today. So I'm edging towards Dimitri. To Dobbs' point about Gary Anderson, we're not sure what Ando's going to turn up. I'm exactly the same about Peter Rhodes. Not what Peter Rhodes going to turn up, what darts he's going to use, what persona we're going to see from him on stage. I think whoever's come through that High Bretton Smith Dame will have had to have played well to come through that. So we'll be coming into that with a bit of form. So from that quarter, I am edging towards Dimitri.
I quite fancied Noppy to come through. With the Dutch crowd.
That's unlike you to back. That's unlike you to back someone to beat Jose, Phil. Very surprised.
Stand by what I said. Deep water, he can't swim.
Yeah, that porter is just genuinely very, very hard to pick. Looking at it's not looking through the names, it's looking at the current form and how some of them are playing. Obviously, we've seen Noppy play some good stuff recently. I'm like I say, I'm edging towards Dimmy, but it's a difficult one to pick.
So, as we do for all TV tournaments, I would like your finalists and winners, please, gentlemen.
I've got my winner. I just haven't got my other finalist. My winner is Michael Van Doven. My finalist is. Oh, if I'm having him, if he gets to the semis, I have him to push on. I'll have Dimitri.
Gob.
I've got 3 semi-finalists. I'm just trying to work out where I go with it. I think top half semi-final was Michael Van Gerwen against Nathan Aspinall.
Repeat of the European Championship semi-final.
Yeah. And the issue again is that Nathan Aspinall, when he has to play multiple times in a day, is one of the players that tires that a little bit quicker, I think, than a lot of others, because he puts so much into his performances. Everything is, he lives and breathes every single dart, whereas a lot of other players can just switch off emotionally for a bit of that. So I think that gives Van Gerwen the edge to make the final, where he will meet either Krzysztof Ratajski or any one of the 6. I honestly don't know. Do you know what? After the win at the weekend, Michael Smith. Yeah. I would absolutely love for it to be Kim Huybrechts. I'm a big fan, as I said on Twitter earlier in the week. I'm back to the European Championship semi-final. I'm not going to do it this time, and he's probably going to do me in for it. I'm going to go Michael Smith, and I'm going to say Smith beats Ratajski, and then I'm going to say Michael Smith wins a TV title. Why not? Let's see it. Go on, bully boy.
Oi, oi!
Oi, oi! Set the alarm off. It's happening.
I agree. Top half, I think it's the repeat of the European Championship quarterfinal. I think Michael Van Gogh plays Gerwyn Price. And I think it's the same outcome. It'll be Michael in an absolute belter. Bottom half, I'm going for a repeat of the 2019 final in the same event. Danny Noppert comes through and then Michael wins the final. Just like what I see with Danny Noppert at the moment.
He's got history of not playing in a World Series event and then making a World Series final, which I still think is mental, by the way.
Oh, completely.
We haven't even discussed that bit of it, but that is absolutely mental that in a series, you cannot playing it, qualify for the finals and nearly win it. Like, no.
Look,
the field should be purely World Series players. And I know this year's been a short year and a bit more difficult. We've only had the one event, etc. So you can make an exception for it this year. But in years gone by, and in years gone by, and in the year's future, the field has to purely be made up of World Series players.
I'm with you on that. If there's a full World Series calendar, there's no need to be a qualifier that you have to play in the World Series to be in the event. I'm completely with you.
Taking the top players to the different countries in the world and seeing them play in one event is brilliant. But actually, the way to grow the game is if somebody in Holland gets to see somebody from Australia come over and play. Do you know what I mean? And in the finals, I think that gives a bigger exposure than 8 players going to Australia, where it'll be on Australian TV locally and that sort of thing. And then a different 8 players playing elsewhere, and then nobody ever being on a bigger stage. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I'm going to say. Have they missed the trick? The fact there is no one outside Europe in this field.
Yeah, and I think for 1 year it can be excused because of where we are currently and what's happened throughout this year. Next year, I would like to see it change. I've full house on the thoughts that you've got to have played in the event. You've got to have played in one of the World Series. Obviously not this year, but in future years we have so many. So why do then we need a qualifier for that? Maybe more incentive for the home nation qualifiers or something there that pushes those through into that it's not required that you have a qualifier for this event. I don't think. I find it very strange.
I'm going to counteract that, Boise. When you said in these normal circumstances it can be excused, last year, international representatives, Cody Harris, Damon Heta, Jeff Smith, Simon Whitlock.
Yeah. And the thing is, 3 of those, though, are as a result of there being 3 Australasian events and then having more opportunities to potentially pinch a first-round victory and then qualify in the order of merit.
Yeah, but there was no World Series last year. There was only a final.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying. And being it was Pro Tour week...
I think that's more of a continuation of what we're used to seeing, isn't it? Because in the years before that, Kyle Anderson's been there, Damon Heta, Corey Cadby, etc. have all done well at the World Series qualifier events or World Series events before the World Series finals. And normally that part of the world would be in these finals.
I'll just look at it that Jeff Smith was in the UK for the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
It's not as if he had to fly over from Canada just to play in this event. He could have stayed in the UK.
Danny Baggish.
Yeah.
After his run at the World Championships. They marketed that pretty well.
There was a chance to put just a little bit of an international flavour to the tournament. I get it can't be full because of what's going on, but there was a chance to...
John Henderson.
I think Endo deserves...
And actually, don't get me wrong, the fact that this is in Holland, brilliant, but it doesn't need 4 Dutch qualifiers or invitations.
Yeah, that maybe be where they'd look at. I'm not sure where else that would take them from, unless they didn't have the tour qualifiers.
Yeah. Well, that too, yeah. Why do they need to be there? Why do they need to qualify? This is a World Series exhibition event, if you like. It's an invitational. Not allowed to use the word exhibition. You get told off.
Yeah,
to be honest,
I think you could have lost Wade, De Souza, Smith and Chisnell and replaced them with a bit of an international feel to make it feel like a World Series.
Yeah, I'm still in shock that Barney's name's not on that list. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't get it. For years and years, we have hammered the PDC for giving Barney a wild card when there was absolutely no justification for it. The 1 year that they've actually got justification, he's won a Pro Tour, he's won something, and they haven't put him in. I'm just staggered. And didn't Jeffrey de Zwaan give an interview in Holland? All of our Dutch counterparts in the chat room could probably confirm this. I think I saw it over the weekend. That Jeffrey de Zwaan actually admitted that Barney should be in it over him.
He did, yeah.
And now looking at it, just look at what a tie it would have set up as well. It would have been a good watch to see him against Dirt, and the winner of that to take on prize. But yeah, I'm just very surprised that the year they've decided to pick. I don't know if they're trying to prove a point or that they've gave him so many opportunities before, but they've gave him opportunities before when he's probably not merited them opportunities. But it seems like this year he has, looking at who's been picked instead of. So yeah, I just find it very strange to see 4 Dutch representation and Barney not being one of those.
Couple of questions from the chat room in and around this. First of all, Pure Exor says, I don't get how you guys are writing off Johnny Clayton for what we've seen so far this year. He's the best in the world. Because he missed the Pro Tours because he was ill. We don't know how well Johnny Clayton is heading into this event. That's why, if he'd have played in the Pro Tours and fit and healthy, wouldn't be a question. But because he pulled out ill, there has to be question marks. In the current climate,
it's not writing him off.
Yeah.
It's perhaps a hint of oversight on just how good Johnny Clayton has been this year. I pulled Lee up on it a few minutes ago when he said he was more likely for Gerwyn Price to get through than Johnny Clayton. But the illness coupled with a tough round of Nathan Aspinall, Vincent van der Voort, a solid return to form of Nathan Aspinall, who absolutely loves a scrappy game as well. It's not us ignoring or writing off Johnny Clayton by any measure. I still think he's favourite for the World Championship at the minute because he's the best player on TV at the minute. 3 TV titles this year. Just for this event,
right now,
don't know how strong he's going to be in.
And I think, Dob, in addition to that, if anyone watches this frequently, will realise that if I've tipped Johnny Clayton not to do well, it means he'll probably go on and win every tournament between now and the back end of the year. But it's only on this one, and the reason I've made that is just on the base of the form of Aspen Vincent, and I think whoever comes through that will be going into that with the form. But I'm not sure on what how Johnny Clayton turns up to this with the lack of preparation that the other players have had.
And James says as well, amazing, the winner and runner-up of this joke event gets a place in the Grand Slam for me. Yeah, I'm kind of with you.
Yeah, there was where's the comment gone? There was one literally a couple before that. Sands saying, World Series is what it is, I wouldn't worry about it. The problem is that it's so hit and miss and so inconsistent with how important it actually is in terms of the PDC's push for global domination, they sort of have different rules to every other event. You see random qualifiers appearing, and then, like you said, the top 2 do get a Grand Slam spot, which is ranking money, which is important. So as long as they're backdoor entries left, right, and centre and qualification routes from one tournament into another, we're going to debate why certain players are picked and why certain players aren't. Just the way it is.
Yeah, there was also one says, what do you guys think about the Dutch crowd, the Rotterdam Ahoy crowds and the Amsterdam crowds? I've been to both. The Ahoy was amazing, genuinely top draw, and so was Amsterdam 2 years ago as well. So look, I'm a big fan of the Dutch crowds.
Very passionate, very loud. Love the fact they will turn up in orange in the same colour. Like, that's class. You wouldn't get that in the UK. You just wouldn't, because we don't support anybody like that. But they do back their home guys.
Yeah. So that is that. We haven't got any graphics for the next bit, but we are going to talk about it. WDF, the Welsh Open. We have some names on tournaments, which means they are going to Lakeside. One in particular, the madman, the box of frogs, Cameron Menzies, will grace the Lakeside stage, boys.
Good weekend for that household, wasn't it, Phill? Yeah, very good indeed. Look, really good. Criticised a little bit of the events in Wales. They had a cash flyer that went on till 3 a.m. Some of it went on a little bit longer, etc. And there's still a lot of debate about the format of WDF events being best of 5, etc. But some very, very good winners in the end. Luke Littler absolutely dominating the boys' events. Great to see Ella Cairns winning the girls' event. Fantastic to see Bo Greaves return to winning titles. The mixed pairs with Sean Matthews, the Welsh Classic, I think it was, and then losing in a repeat of that final in the Welsh Open. And who was the final winner? Thibaut Tricol, Frenchman. These events they're still well attended. They're still going to carry on. The WDF have a system that has worked for God knows how long, and people still go to these events. I suppose the biggest talking point actually came in the ladies, Phill. Look, Thibaut winning the Classic and then Camry qualifying for Lakeside is brilliant for Cammy, but it was the fact that we were covering the women's series at the same time. Kirsty Hutchinson made a really good start of it in events 1 to 6, didn't play events 7 to 12 because she was in Wales attempting to qualify for the Lakeside, wins the Open after losing to Bo Greaves about an hour and a half before that as well in the Classic, which doesn't carry the same ranking criteria. We were saying it was a little bit of a gamble. Will it pay off? She pulled through it. She's at the Lakeside, which is a fantastic achievement for her. And now she gets to go and compete for £25,000.
Yeah, definitely. Like we said, it was a gamble, but the gamble paid off for Kirsty Hutchinson. We spoke about Bo Greaves a lot. I didn't watch the second final. I watched the first. The action looks okay in the first one.
It did. And obviously there were times where it's got better. The averages still seem to be going up. There was a couple of moments where the throw doesn't seem to be a problem. It's the setup. And it's getting the dart from down by her side to actually in the arm that seems to be affecting Bo, which is a good sign because the averages stay up. If it's not coming out your hand at the top end, that's where it's a little bit more of an issue for her. But like I said, it's fantastic to see her back up there. She's won the mixed pairs and the Classic title, lost in the final of the Open. She's playing very, very good darts. Just hope that she can overcome the dartitis, if you like.
Yeah, look. It's an interesting one, that's for sure. But it was good. Good to see is the thing. But over the weekend as well, there's people that have turned. We'll do the ladies first for the race for Lakeside. So Fallon's name obviously is in green now. She's won a place. Bo Greaves. Surprisingly, Anastasia in 5th isn't mathematically there yet, Gob.
Yeah, well, I think she might be in terms of ranking position on the order of merit, but yeah, by not having won one of the gold or silver events, I think it is in the WDF at the minute. so far in the calendar year, she's not an auto pick for that. And winning one of those events is the easiest way to qualify for the Lakeside. You don't have to, well, you do still have to do the rest of the tour, I suppose. You have to normally reach or go to a certain number of events and that sort of thing. And the qualifying criteria is quite complex in comparison to the PDC, where you win a certain amount of money and that gets you in, apart from the Grand Slam, obviously. So, yeah, look, Lisa, Anna is probably the highest profile, not guaranteed yet, but I suspect she will be there comfortably anyway.
There's also a subplot here, holding on to one of the last positions at the moment, Gob. It's Paula Jacklin. A return to the scene of the crime.
I don't even want to give her the time of day. We're normally pretty open about everybody on this show. We don't like to slate anybody, but the hypocrisy, by the way, after the redraw the other weekend, to be calling that out on social media after being involved in it when it happened previously for a more illegitimate reason was absolutely astounding.
I'm with you on that one. Moving on to the men's, like we said, Cameron Menzies is going to Lakeside by winning the Welsh Open. Plenty of names in and around, but the interesting bit for me is.
Are you about to talk about Twitter?
No.
Oh, go on, you go first, and then I might have something different to talk about in the men's as well.
Yeah. I was going off of the fact that there's in and around the lower ranking places that would qualify, there are a lot of international flags.
Yeah.
Which could be an
Travel
issue.
restriction.
Especially,
it will be.
Especially that a lot of them have got red stars on and are pretty much under lockdown. Trying to get in and out of Australia and New Zealand is hard work at the moment. So there could be potential for people a lot lower down to come in.
Which might be a good sign for Dave Parletti. Because that's where I'm going to go next. Been very vocal on Twitter today about not being able to be double vaccinated in order to go and chase the prize money he needs to maintain his spot, which I think is now 13th on the order of merit because of his recent operations. He's not able to have the 2 jabs within the space of 8 weeks, I think it is, that allows him to go and chase the prize money he needs for the next couple of weeks. He's been very vocal about how that might very well prevent him from staking his place at the Lakeside.
Unfortunately, it's just one of those things. Look, people can't, darts organisations or just sports organisations cannot control what other countries do. Like this weekend to go to Amsterdam, if I wasn't double vaccinated, you have to self-isolate on arrival into Holland for 10 days.
Yeah.
That's government rules. That's nothing to do with sport or anything like that. If you're not double jabbed, you have to isolate when you go in. The same as, I don't know if this is common knowledge, but it's going to be now. To play in the PDC World Cup that's just gone, you had to be double vaccinated. If you weren't double vaccinated, you could not even play in the tournament because of the German legislation and rules. PDC's fans were forced by that. So look, although it's unfortunate, the way the world is, there's not a lot that can be done about that, I don't think.
Yeah, it makes it just.
Go on, then.
Go on, Dom. Go on. No, I was just gonna say, just make.
Go.
Dob.
All right. In Parletti's case, I think the frustration is that obviously he's missed out previously. He got ill abroad, didn't he, and had to have a big operation and that sort of thing. So he's already missed out on a large part of his darting career. And if it happens again where he can't go and make the most of it, it's just frustration, I think, from him.
Yeah. Yeah, look, no one's saying it's ideal. but it's there.
Yeah, and I was just going to touch on that. It's hard for us to debate about it because it's not a darting issue. It's a worldwide or nationwide issue, depending on where you are. That it makes it difficult for that to change because hands are forced on where these tournaments are held, and there's restrictions at most events, not just darting events, worldwide events. So it is a very difficult one, but it's not one that's thrown away anytime soon.
Yeah. Also, on the men's rankings, the WDF ones, the number 4 ranked player, I'm guessing, won't be there because Jim Williams has a decision to make. And let's be honest, it's not a very difficult one, is it?
We just picked up a tour card. So he's going to play in the PDC one.
Exactly, yeah. That's what I mean. It's not a difficult one, is it?
There's a qualifier for that, who will then get a tour card the next day. Will that money go straight on his ranking?
I don't think so. I might be wrong, but
Probably
I don't think
not.
so.
I thought I'd ask in case it was an appropriate question to ask.
So, yeah, still opportunities up for grabs. But, yeah, don't get me wrong, the Welsh Open looked good from the outside looking in. Didn't spend an awful lot of time covering it because we were doing the ladies series. There were some good things, like Gob said. A few bad things like finishing at 3 o'clock in the morning and the money in, money out and bits like that. But all in all, a good tournament, boys.
Yeah, and it's with that, we spoke about it before about certain issues. It's just making sure that they are growing and we're not seeing these issues continue tournament onto tournament, and they are learning from these mistakes. They want to set themselves out as this being sort of the first year, and it's all sorts. So we might have a few teething problems, but we need to make sure that they are being ironed out as we progress through and move on to Lakeside.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. Also, Champions Week in the Online Darts Live League, and the standard was off the scale this morning, boys. About everyone doing their bit.
Yeah, look, if you want to get ahead of the curve and perhaps see who's going to come through Q School, take a look at this morning because there was some delightful performances in there, and there's still more to come. Like Mark Webster should have been in the first 3 days, has opted to play later in the week. He'll start Thursday evening, I believe. Barzi, he was superb in qualifying previously. Still some top names to join the fold as well, but the first 6 are really delivered this morning.
Yeah. Also, Saturday night, a bit of drama in Group 1. For the first time, we had to go to the averages to separate them. And unfortunately, Colin Osborne missed out.
I couldn't believe it. Why wasn't there a 9-dart shootout? That rule's got to change. 9-dart shootouts are just so much more fun than somebody sat working out who qualified because they scored a little bit heavier in one leg or something. I don't know. Yeah, 9-dart shootout, please, Phill. Let it be known.
Yes, on with that, please, Phill. Let it in that notebook of yours.
Yeah.
But to be fair, there has been talk about the 9-dart shootout being implemented. Not saying it's definitely, but there is talk. Also, just flicking through Twitter.
Especially after I saw you try and work out MVG's average last week and butcher it. I hope someone else did the maths.
Yeah, I did that. I think Ronnie O'Sullivan's too happy about having to play a qualifier in the snooker. I've just watched his break-off.
Yeah, 4-0 down, smashes the balls everywhere against Hassan Yafei, I think that's how you pronounce his name.
And one goes in. Brilliant.
But hang on, this is a dart show apparently, Phill. We're not allowed to talk about any other sport because it might bring a tear to Lee Boyce's eye.
Correct.
So it's that time. I think don't think we've missed anything in the week of darts, have we, boys? Before we open the chat room for questions.
Not week gone. Clapperstein makes a very, very good point ahead of this weekend. And not only is it World Series, but the Dev Tour returns for its final weekend in the UK. I've got a couple of friends that will be there as well. Haven't looked at the entry list. Haven't looked at the order of merit at the minute. Completely caught us off guard. But more darts, more to talk about on Monday next week, which will set the field for the World Youth Championship, which was actually announced the other week. That it won't be the full 96 field that we're used to seeing on a Monday afternoon at the Robin Park in Wigan. It will be the top 32 players from the order of merit playing in Minehead in Reds on stage 2, and playing out the title there, which I like as a move as the top 32. I do feel that a couple of players are going to miss out. Obviously, when you narrow the field by 2/3, there will be players that are in their last year that will rightly feel a little bit aggrieved that they don't get a shot at it. But they've made the announcement before the end of the tour, which I like. So they've got this weekend to go and put that right, if you like, or they know the target before the end. But
it wasn't done.
If you can make this rule in midway through the year, as the PDC have done, they could have done the same for the European Championship, which they said they weren't because they were just following the rules.
That is, Dob, that is the most sense you have ever spoken right there. Just what I was about to say. For me, I think it's a great move. It should have been a move that was made for next year or announced at the start of this year, so they are aware. I don't think you can announce it midway through because the PDC don't do that, do they? So, yeah. Not for me, the timing of it is.
Oh, bugger off with rule 1, Phill.
Rule number 1, gentlemen. Rule number 1.
That's all it says in his notebook. Bob, that's all it says in his notebook. It just says rule number 1 on every page.
Yeah, it's an answer to everything. Phill, what are you having for takeaway tonight? Rule number 1.
I've got rule number 2 as well.
Follow rule number 1.
No, rule number 2. If Barry is wrong, please refer to rule number 1.
There we go.
Barry's never wrong.
Right, we are going to open the chat room for question times. It's absolute belter of a show. Jump in, boys. If you see anything you like, everyone else, get your questions in now.
What would happen if Robert Thornton took through Q school? Because he wouldn't be able to play at the World Seniors. You take the Q school, mate. It's more financially rewarding, I believe. In the long term, we'd just have to replace Robert in the. I presume, is the qualifiers in a couple of weeks going to produce an order of merit of some sort to pick the next ranked player if somebody pulls out? Is that the option?
It is.
Yeah.
But if anyone like Richie Burnett, Robert Thornton, there's a few in there, if they get tour cards and can't play in the World Seniors, it will be then done off the order of merit. Correct, Gob? So, that's what happens there. Why is the Grand Slam of Darts ranking event?
Phil, there's not going to be any mid-qualification changes, is there, in this rule book? This one's done a set in stone and this is staying, yeah?
It's 2 days. If they change rules on Saturday night while I'm in the room, heads will roll.
Come in there. Why is the Grand Slam a ranking event? Because they just changed it to a ranking event.
They needed more. Basically. A couple of years back when they made the change, didn't agree. Look, if it's gonna in the future just be a amalgamation of PDC title winners and merging the tours before the World. I don't agree that you get Grand Slam and World Championship entry, by the way. You shouldn't get both of those. You should get one or the other. No issue with them amalgamating the Grand Slam as the top players from the Pro Tour that won titles, the Challenge Tour, the Dev Tour, etc., etc. I like that if the amateur rankings aren't going to produce enough players and if it's going to stay ranking. But at the same time, the BDO participation was always the best thing about the Grand Slam. And the minute they made it ranking, I just never agreed with it because players are playing in it that can't sit on that ranking.
Yeah, agreed. Alexander says, is there any leverage to the PDC having a Women's World Championship as well as the WDF? Look, I don't think it will happen. But if it did, I think that then kills the Ladies World Championship for the WDF.
It depends how big the women's series tour underneath becomes. If that becomes a staple, like Matt said about growing it, there is that possibility. But then obviously players have to commit to it, etc. But at the same time, I don't agree with players then being able to compete in that one and the overall World Championship. And at the same time, they want the ladies' participation, like Fallon, Lisa, Mikuru, and Dita, Ali Pali in the men's.
Yeah.
I think if they introduce a women's World Championship, they're admitting defeat in the fact that they believe that it's a meritocracy and both men and women will be able to compete against each other at the top level in the open PDC as it always has been. It's never been a men's game.
Yeah, look, I don't think they will. I think they'll continue to do the ladies series to get more ladies playing. I don't think they'll ever go to a women's world championship personally.
Yeah, I'm with you on
that. What else have we got? Rose says, did you see Price's Instagram story about being the first player to hit 2 million, and can he do it by January 2022? Right, mathematically,
pretty much
can
everything
do it.
Between now and then. I'm sure someone earlier said he couldn't do it mathematically, but he's claimed that he's going to do it.
I think he can, but
they have to win everything.
He'd probably have to. So, effectively, he needs 700, just over 700,000. He would have to win the world's. Oh no, because he's defending slam money from 2 years ago, so that would only.
The post-World Championship order of merit, the tour card race, puts him at just over £1 million. It's £1,039,000, which means you'd have to find £1 million. You'd have to find £1 million between now and the end of the World Championship, and there's not £500,000 on offer between the Slam, the Players' Championship finals, and that's it.
No,
Pro Tour.
At best, there's probably
match play
about
next year.
Match play next year. He could probably do it,
but he'd have to win everything between now and then.
Yeah.
Can you explain the world qualifiers? To be honest, we still haven't looked into that or the clarification onto who can play in like the West and East Europe ones. The news about that only broke last week. Obviously, we've been streaming a lot last week with the Pro Tour and the Women's Series. I will try and have a look into it and get back to you guys about that one by next Monday.
I think tour card holders can play in it because the best Max Hopp award and the best Devon Peterson award, they had tour cards when they got in backdoor in it.
Possibly.
So I think
tour card holders can. I just would be interested to see how they define who can play in what one.
Yeah. Henry says outside picks at risk of losing their tour card.
Outside picks? I'm not sure there are many outside picks.
I think there's a lot moving on. I think this year is fairly straightforward, but next year there's some big names.
Yeah. Because for me, for it to be an outside pick to lose their tour card, they'd have to be in it at the minute or in the top 64, I suppose. Anybody else that's already miles out of that needs work to do isn't an outside pick. You'd have to like have Karel Sedlacek to fall massively or 3 other players to jump above him for it to be an outsider. Do you know what I mean? Interesting, though, how many players are in green, which means they've got a 2-year tour card and are only in year 1 outside of the 64, who have already accumulated circa £30,000 of prize money, which means next year they get a free roll to effectively go and double that, which would comfortably put all of them with a tour card in around the mid-40s.
Yeah. Well, I look at it like Alan Suter, year 1, 36,500, and he's still got world's money to go on that as well. Scott Mitchell, 34, still got world's money. But going back to Henry's point, next year, I look at this cluster of players. Oh, I'll tell you what, he might survive this year, but isn't Luke Woodhouse defending something like 30 grand at the Worlds? wasn't it 2 years ago when he went on that run, beat Michael Smith?
Yes.
If that's the case, Luke may be in a bit of danger in 49.
Played well this week though, but like I said, it's a lot of money to defend. So we'd have to go at it again.
That's what I mean. It's a big chunk all at once.
To win money than it is to defend money, but yeah, he's playing dart well enough to be able to do that.
Yeah.
The one for me now that I'm sort of worried about, not this year but for next, is someone like Beaton.
Who said that at the start? Yes, this year they're already just like, yeah, stuff you. I'm going to be here forever.
Right, the ones next, or the ones that I look at now for next year, Keegan Brown's dropped like a stone at 54. Steve West at 52. Where was else I was looking at?
I don't recall seeing Steve West's name an awful lot last week either, which either means he went very early or he wasn't there full start.
No, he was there. He went very early. So yeah, there's a lot in and around for next year that I think have got issues to sort.
Yeah, it's probably better off having this discussion after the last block of Pro Tours as well, because we'll pretty much know who needs a big World Championships and who's in a lot of trouble and who isn't. A couple of minutes left. Let's try and sneak a few more questions in. There was a question about Women's Week on the Live League. Potentially in the future, I believe. It just depends if we can get the 12 women you'd need for a week all available at the same time at a high enough standard.
That's the issue. It has to be competitive. And the issue is, does it work without Lisa? Because she's got a tour card. Probably not.
Yeah.
And then flip the coin in January, if either Lisa or Fallon win a tour card again, does it work without...
We lose them because we're playing it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the Women's Week to work in the Live League, you'd need the headliners there as well as competition below it. And basically, for us to get that benefit, they'd have to fail for the next couple of weeks, and we don't want to see that either. So,
Phase 6, hold on to your hats.
There's a Phase 6.
Oh, yeah. Hold on to your hats.
Clapperstein, good question. Would you like to see more European venues in the Premier League? Long term, possibly. The issue is the travelling with weekend Pro Tours or Euro Tours that come around with that. And if you've got Premier League venue on the Thursday, getting the crowds there for a European tour for the Friday through Sunday is going to be that little bit more difficult.
Yeah, look, I've said it for a while that I struggle with the Premier League. And this isn't because they're awful cities or anything like that, but there's a lot in a blanket. Does that make sense? A lot that are close together. I'm just looking at next year's list. So Cardiff, fine on its own, nothing else around it. Liverpool has to be in. Belfast, completely agree. Berlin, yeah. Exeter, yes, because it has to be. Brighton, it's not the best venue, if I'm being honest.
No, but it's
nice to have something
South Coast. It's not too far from London either, which is that one.
Bournemouth was a better venue, but it was too small now, unfortunately. But Rotterdam. But here's where I don't think it works particularly, because you're throwing a blanket over them. Sheffield, Leeds, Birmingham, Nottingham are all like
Manchester.
It's all
even Liverpool, Manchester, Leeds up there. You've got the three of them. Don't get me wrong, the Echo is fantastic or whatever it's called now. But when you've got three group there, you've got the three in the Midlands. You've got Birmingham, Nottingham, Sheffield in a straight line. There is scope for them to be spread around a bit more, and people would still travel. Perhaps.
Yeah, look,
especially
I don't think
the majority of them.
I don't think you need Sheffield and Leeds. If you're going to have, I don't think you need Nottingham and Birmingham. I think you need Liverpool and Manchester because of the size of the cities, but then you schedule them so one's near the front and one's near the end. A couple of years ago, I remember I spent more time in the north of the country because they were all within like 5 or 6 weeks of each other, just following on, and it didn't quite work.
Yeah, they've changed it drastically next year. Sorry, some of the dates have moved around. But yeah, I'm with you on that. Even though, like says, a lot of those are fairly close for me. I don't see the point in. But I've always been against Birmingham as one of them. I just don't think it provides a great night.
Here's one for you. If you could get rid of one venue on the current list, which one do you get rid of? For me, this is easy.
Cardiff.
The O2.
Cardiff.
Now, Cardiff's great.
No.
Well, to be fair, in 3 years, it won't be in Cardiff City Centre anyway. They'll put it at that massive new arena at Cardiff Bay that holds 15,000 or whatever it is. But the O2 is the worst atmosphere in darts. It is horrendous. It's like the Lakeside.
You only get 3 games, I suppose. Or it used to be.
But this year, this year it's not it's a normal.
The minute it's not finals night, I don't think it needs to be at the O2. I think it could be at Wembley.
Wembley Arena.
Yeah. Or the Copper Box. Something just a little bit more compact that makes a little bit more noise. It's the same thing with the Midlands venues. You've got the NIA, the Nottingham Arena, the Sheffield Arena. They're all big dome, not necessarily Birmingham, but Sheffield and Nottingham are ice arenas.
Yeah. Agreed. Good question, though. But yes, I would like to see some more European cities, going back to the original question.
Yeah. Jumping for a few more. Do we need more refreshing tournaments in darts instead of many leg formats, more set play, doubling, or other refreshing elements? Yes. This is twofold for me, and I'll let you two jump on that as well. Sorry, I know I've read the question, which normally means you two answer first. But the issue with that is that there is only so many formats that you can play in darts, and actually there's more of a draw for some of them because we see them less frequently. If we're watching doubling every weekend, wouldn't be as exciting as it is once a year when the players have to adapt and do something that little bit different. There's a lot of talk about steel tip cricket, but I keep giving it back to you that actually visually presenting that on TV is very, very difficult.
I agree. The two that I would love a shootout type format.
Yeah.
Whether it's one leg 1001, one leg 1501. I would love a shootout type format and the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, would love a Ryder Cup, the team event.
They're the two that I could massively get behind.
And a change to the World Cup.
Yeah, purely pairs. But if we get a Ryder Cup team event as well, I can probably bear with the fact that the World Cup is pairs and singles. There's just something a little bit different, a little bit special about playing for your country or your region, etc. And you see the emotion that the Ryder Cup, the Moscone Cup, the Weber Cup, etc. bring out. Matchroom are specialists in those events as well, by the way.
Yeah.
They love these big fancy pit one team against the other, create a good atmosphere, lots of build-up, lots of social media about it. It just makes sense if Darts gets one as well.
I think the Ryder Cup would be absolutely immense.
Would you also add a 4-on-1 team on the stage at the same time? 8 players?
I think that might be a bit much. The most you get is a mixed triple.
I definitely have a mixed triple.
Yeah. Depends on the size of the stage as well, doesn't it, Lee?
Yeah, I'm thinking more of a team hitting a 9-darter, but someone that actually throwing a dart.
Yeah.
But being
it would be a nightmare for TV. But what about like you have to get 3 legs ahead of an opponent. You just keep playing and playing and playing until you're 3 legs clear of an opponent. You could win 3-0 or you could win 56-53.
Considering they made the change to the match play a few years back in that rule that it couldn't keep going on, I've got a feeling that for TV purposes, Dom, you'd have a 3 a.m. Welsh Open like we've had this weekend.
I still love the idea of a Royal Rumble type tournament where it's not set out.
I think the shootout would be great for that. the shootout idea where the players are all just sat. They're not even allowed to warm up. They're just sat in the arena and we pull them out one by one. Their walk on music plays and they have to get up from the bench on the right-hand side, come through a gate and walk onto the stage. As while the next players just stood there waiting for them.
Could you imagine the crowd's reaction, getting ready for just the music to hit, so you know who's next?
Yeah. MVG just wins a classic, and next thing you know, Gerwin Price's walking music starts playing. He has to walk on to play it.
Yeah, it would be immense. To be fair, we've got a few obviously Dutch fans in tonight that don't know what the Ryder Cup is. So the Ryder Cup is the biggest team event in golfing history. I probably worded that about right, haven't I? So
it's Europe versus the rest of the world at golf. So you have a team of 12. They play some pairs matches on the Friday and Saturday. And on the Sunday, they play 12 singles on the Sunday. Not a Europe versus USA Ryder Cup, surely. Yeah, we're talking more Europe versus rest of the world, or UK and England versus Europe sort event.
Yeah. So you'd have team event where you'd have a number of qualifiers, as in the top 4 qualify from each region. Then the captains have wild card picks as well that it just suits. And then the Friday would be mixed doubles, the Saturday doubles and a mixed triple. And then on the Sunday, you have 12 singles, but the captain picks the order. The TV companies get no say whatsoever.
Yeah. Please, I'm going to go and play him first, not prime time.
To flit it then, if we're doing UK and Ireland versus rest of the world, who are your captains? Who are your captains for UK and Ireland, and who's your captain for rest of the world?
What, for the very first one?
Wayne Mardle and John Park.
For the very first one.
Wayne Mardle, John Park.
I don't
Two very
dislike
different
that.
approaches. Two very different approaches. Wayne Mardle's very technical with his analysis of a dart throw, but in terms of G'ing players up, I think he'd be fantastic. And John Park is one of the most knowledgeable blokes ever to play the game. He's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think he'd analyse it a little bit. He'd instill some wisdom on his team and inspire them and say that they should be up on that wall as well. Give him some respect.
Respect from the wall. Yeah, that'd be that'd be superb. Well, everyone, it is now 10:10. We've gone over the 2 hours because there has been that much going on. Been an absolute belting show here on the live lounge tonight. I want to thank you all very much that have been with us for the last 2 hours and 10 minutes. It's been an absolute joy. Plenty of darts going on. Remember, the live league returns tomorrow, Champions Week, and it is day 2 of Group A. And if it's anything like today, the standard will be off the chart. World Series finals from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We have everything covered here at Online Darts for you, so you don't need to go anywhere else. And then next week, it's the final batch of Pro Tour events. All eyes will be on the race for Minehead and the World Championships as well. So lots going on here at Online Darts. It's been an absolute pleasure having you all along with us. Before we go, one last time, make sure you drop us a subscribe and a like would be absolutely amazing. I've been Phill Bars, joined by Jack Gobby Garwood and Lee Boyce for the last couple of hours. Gentlemen, absolute pleasure, and we will be back next week for the Live Lounge.
3, 2, 1, let's go.